Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space again. Because if my calculations are correct, this is video 2 today. Not 100% positive as of filming this intro because I got to deal with time zones. Something I don't like doing. But one of 2 videos today, so lots of inspiration. For this one, I'm actually part of an Instagram hop to share inspiration and ideas with Altenew's artist markers. They're alcohol markers. I've already done a couple videos. I did a live stream, like a first impressions, just playing with them. And then I've used them in at least one other video, if not 2 so far, because the Altenew artist markers have been out for, I'm not sure when they first started releasing them. They've got many sets, but they're new to me. I just started using them a couple months ago, whenever that video was. I'll have them linked. I'll have them linked in the end screen so you can check them out if you are interested. So I use them to do my coloring on one of Altenew's many floral fabulous sets. And yeah, I'll have a link to my Instagram so you can check that out, because if you don't follow me on there, you should. I post at least all my cards, things I make on there. And when I'm parts of things like this, there's like giveaways and fun stuff. So I'll have a link to that. I will also, of course, have links to everything I use. Those will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links, end up ordering something, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It helps pay the bills, keeps the heaters going, enables me to continue bringing content. And that's enough for the housekeeping. Let's get into making the card. So I'm using the Build a Garden Primrose collection that came out a couple months ago. Something. It's not like brand new, but it's newer. And this is what, in Altenew's terms, this is what I consider a baby floral. This panel that I'm stamping onto is A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. But if you're at all familiar with how big Altenew's florals can get, this is just itty bitty. So this set comes with a layering stencil set and coordinating wafer dies. I'm technically not using the layering stencil set, but I am going to use one of the stencils later. But instead of using the stencils, I'm going to color this with I'm specifically using the Cottage Garden alcohol marker set. This was the newest set to come out, and this one also came out, I think it was in the November release. Yeah. I did my first impression. It was a live stream playing with their markers. And like I said, I'll have that linked in the end screen. And yeah, I used specifically, I think it was this set in that live stream. So this first little bit, this is real time. I'm going to speed this up considerably in editing. Because otherwise we're going to be here all day. And yeah, I tend to work darkest to lightest. So I'd stamp this image onto, this is Simon Says Stamp Smooth White Cardstock. I use Simon's Intense Black ink. Those are just my 2 go-tos for cardstock and ink when I'm working with any alcohol marker. And Cottage Garden alcohol marker set. The thing that I am quite enjoying with their markers is they follow the same format as their fresh dye inks. So it's sets of 4. So a light, a medium dark, and a dark. And that is so nice with alcohol markers. Because for me, it just means less thinking. It's like, oh, here it is. Here's a 4-color blend. Here it is, just presented to you. So I stuck with that. I didn't do anything crazy out of the box. I just stuck to that blend. And that's what I used for these florals. So I used the Raspberry Sunset was my darkest. Then Blush Rose, and now I'm in Dusty. This is Dusty Pink. So I did darkest to lightest, and I used all 4 shades. Normally for me with alcohol markers, I don't usually venture further than like 3 shades. That again is just a laziness thing. I do find though that if you add a 4th, you just get more depth. So since this was already, the colors were already just sitting there, that's what I did. So then the lightest shade is Strawberry. And yeah, love it. I just need to play with them. Oh, and the other thing I like, and I talked about this, I think, in my like first impressions video. The nibs on these, like the brush nib, very nice. The other nib is a fine point bullet nib. That was also just they chose right for me personally. Because I don't like chisel nibs. I don't use them like ever, hardly. I've probably maybe used a chisel nib like once or twice in my entire, in my entire storied career of coloring. So that's a win for me. Anyway, for the greenery, same thing. Using the greens from this set, which was, oh, and I used a couple of the yellows from the set. Like I stuck with just this set. So for the centers, I had used melted butterscotch and amber Bliss. And then for the greenery, I used all 4 of the greens and did the same thing, working from darkest to lightest. Because for me, that's just it's a personal thing. Convenience, less blending. That's about it. But speaking of blending, I didn't overly blend the greenery. I kind of liked how it went. I don't know how else to describe it. Because there is quite a big difference between the darker and the lighter shades in this 4-color blend here in this set. And I was okay with that because this is not, normally colors maybe that I would personally choose if I was looking at a whole collection of markers. But the fact that, these were just the way they were, I was like, So I went with them and I was happy with it. So I worked my way around, adding all the colors to all of this greenery. And I left it at this. I didn't use like my white gel pen. I also didn't add splatter to this card. That was actually just, I didn't realize that till I was like editing. And then I was like, oh yeah, I was going to do that. But anyway, once I was done coloring, I used the coordinating wafer die to die cut this image out. So got that lined up and then die cut it. And then once I've got the floral die cut, I'm going to use one of the stencils. So like I said, there's a layering stencil set that you can use with just inks, to add all your coloring, especially if you're not, into marker coloring, things like that. That is one thing I really like with Altenew is those layering stencil sets. I have been having so much fun with them. However, with this set, that last stencil has a like geometric pattern, which love. So I decided to use that. So I've got some of the Altenew like embossing paste and I just put that on a palette and then I smushed Mossy Meadow fresh dye ink onto the palette as well to tint this paste green. So just mixed it up with my palette knife, just like so. I just wanted a nice light green. And then I'm going to apply this over that stencil on another panel of white cardstock and purposely not applying it perfectly, even though that is something some days I still have to fight with. It's like you want to like go to all the edges, It's like how I am with like peanut butter on toast. It's like it must go to all edges. Otherwise it is not good enough to eat. And I'm getting distracted. I applied it imperfectly, let it dry. And then I ended up trimming this down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And then I also trimmed down a piece of, this is moss cardstock, just a dark green cardstock. And I trimmed a strip down to go on the bottom of this panel. So once I've got those trimmed out, I need a sentiment. And I'm going to use the stamp set. And I went about it in this direction, but what you could also do is just take that darkest alcohol marker, the Raspberry Sunset, could scribble that on the cardstock first, just coat it and then let it dry and then heat emboss over it. And that would work as well. I didn't think about that till after I did all this. And I was like, oh, duh, that's another way to get, the color you want. Just use the marker. But instead, I white heat embossed one of the sentiments from the Primrose stamp set. And after I had heat embossed it, I pulled out Raspberry Sunset ink. So the exact same ink. So like I said, you could just use the marker. You would do the marker first, let it dry, then use the anti-static powder tool, heat emboss the sentiment, you'd be good to go. But instead, I heat embossed the sentiment and then applied the Raspberry Sunset ink with a blending brush. And then used a cloth to wipe away the ink that's sitting on top of the sentiment because the white heat embossing resists the ink. So after I had removed it, I then used, there's coordinating wafer dies for the large sentiments with this set. There's a die for the floral and then a few dies for the big sentiments. So I die cut the sentiment. I had added some baker's twine to this panel. I adhered the green cardstock, applied the blah, 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 tied the baker's twine, and then adhered the floral with some thin foam tape, and then also used some thin foam squares to adhere the sentiment. And then for the inside of my card base is another top folding A2 white note card, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And the floral was still on my stamp wheel lid, so I inked it up with dusty pink fresh dye ink, stamped that onto the inside of the card, and then I took another little sub sentiment from the stamp set. I'm going to line that up on the inside of the card as well and stamp that with just the same intense black ink that I used for the main image on the front of the card. So got that stamped into place. And then just need to adhere my card front to the card base. And on the back of it, I had applied what I called my trash cardstock, the stuff that I just don't like using because ink doesn't stamp well on it. It doesn't blend well. Like it's trash in my opinion. However, I'm not going to throw it out. I cut it down and I use it to build dimension until I've used it up. So that's what I put on the back of that panel just to give it a little bit of dimension. Got this adhered into place. And then I'm going to add some Blushberry Bliss enamel dots because these match those pink colors. And yeah, I totally forgot to add splatter. It was part of the plan and I completely forgot. So a card without splatter. I know. I am mentally okay because people ask, like, are you feeling okay? I am. And trust me, I always make up for it. You know, I add splatter to pretty much everything else all the time. So it's okay. And this looks fine without it. I was aware, I am aware that, you know, of my brain completely derping out. But still, this was fun to make. Custom little bit of embossing paste, the, you know, coordinating enamel dots. The alcohol marker coloring was a lot of fun. And that was it. That was the card. So, like I said in the intro, I'll have links to all of the things in the description box below the video. So you just expand that. You can check that all out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!